it down right now with SEC stories. Every play, every time with Rob Browne breaking it all down. Yeah. SEC Sidelines Sports on my mind. Rob Browne calling game time. Highlight shine, executive mind. Brendan Martin keeping Rob in line. Like, subscribe, share it, tell everyone. Sideline Sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
I love it. Brendan and the boys in the garage down in Ocala, Marion County, Florida.
Oh, their fingers are slow this morning. Pick it up, boys. Come on.
Play that guitar. I love it. I love this song, man. Brendan, we've got a great show today. We got Jake Wimberly, ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi. He's one of the best guys in America. Numbers don't lie. We're going to talk numbers in SEC football. Path back. That's our theme. It's the path back to the top of the mountain in college football. How are we going to do it? We're going to tell you how. We've also got Dudley Dawson inside Arkansas. He'll be checking in with us the second half hour, along with the other part of that dynamic duo, Vince Ferrara, 99.1 The Sports Animal, up in Knoxville over in the Smokies. Love this guy. Hey, do us a favor. Take a picture with your cell phone of the QR codes. We're live streaming on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels simultaneously. A lot of you. Hey, as soon as you pick up and watch this show, do us a favor. Share it with all of your friends. Like it and subscribe. Annuitize your business. That's what you want to do.
Yo, share that stuff, Rob. That's you too. Rob and your friends on the damn text. Share it.
Audrey is sharing
this shit every morning. Let's go.
Audrey's sharing it right now. Let's get Jake Wimberly, JW, in here. He's on our side. Jake, good morning. As always, thank you for sharing your time with us there in your studio. And, you know, college football, it really never stops. As soon as the national championship's over, somebody's out there with a way too early top 25. No, it's not way too early. It matters because we're in the South. Now, we talked about this with Bartu, Cordelli, and Johnson on Monday's show. Sounds like a law firm. But the theme was, just because we've got the most talent and the most former SEC guys in the NFL, that doesn't mean that you're winning in college football. It's kind of, what have you done for me lately? We all know the talent's here. Is there going to be a new way? You're going to have a Bobby Beathard, some type of GM behind the scenes. You know, Courtney Morgan's the guy at Alabama. We know about the collective with Walker Jones and the Grove Collective at Ole Miss. You better, Jim Nagy, former executive director of the Senior Bowl, he's at Oklahoma now. They're doing a really good job of bringing in talent. Mississippi State, everybody's got to figure it out.
No, they do. Everybody's got to figure it out. And I think you kind of pinpointed to where you got to go. I mean, if you look at the general manager position in college football, it has become one of the premier positions, to be able to help identify talent and then, of course, coincide with your collective and be able to, understand budgeting and how, what can we get for the biggest dollar? And then, that's what you've seen with the success for Ole Miss. I mean, you look at Walker Jones and the collective, you look at Keith Carter and the administration, they've all kind of pulled the rope in the same direction. And then you look at a place like Texas Tech, Miami, Oregon, the models are very, very similar. I mean, you look at Miami over the last couple of days and, they're going to get Darian Mensah as their starting quarterback after, the little lawsuit hubbub. Yeah. And then also, last night they picked up Cooper Barkate, the big-time wide receiver from Duke. I mean, this guy went 135 for, over the last 2 seasons, 135 catches, right around 2,200 yards and 18 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. They are identifying talent. And not only are they identifying talent, they're identifying, collectives of talent. So, I mean, when you bring in a guy, for instance, at Miami, like a Mensah, and then, a wide receiver that's, of that caliber, that's a 1-2 punch already out the gate that you've got that's going to be, instrumental in Miami trying to get back to the national championship. All that to say is the game has changed. There is no allegiance to your school colors anymore. It is all about how you manage your roster.
Yeah, and you look at the schools in the top schools, well, look, money, they've always had money at Texas and Texas A&M. But I go back every time since 1970, that whole state of 30 million people that we know of has given us one national championship. You can have too many J.R. Ewings at the table. But also, if you've just got one guy or two guys that are running the show, you become a captive to them. So you talk about Duke. They've got a hell of a business school. Getting an MBA from Duke, going into the investment banking, private equity world carries a lot of weight. But also, so does the Haslam College of Business at Tennessee. You look at the Harvard College of Business at Auburn. All these guys are coming out, and they're coming back and getting involved in these collectives. Look, you just talked about Duke. They won the ACC this year, didn't they?
They did.
At 8-5. And, well, that just tells you about how the ACC is. All right, so Monday, Cordelli said, I'm going out on a limb now. I'm going to predict Alabama doesn't make the playoffs in 26. Bartu, an Oregon grad out in, Forest Grove outside of Portland, said Oregon doesn't make it. Wow. They've lost Will Stein, offensive coordinator to Kentucky. Tosh Lapoy, defense is at Cal Berkeley. Who are some schools maybe that have been dormant for the last few years that you think suddenly are going to jump up and bite like a rattlesnake?
Yeah, and look, I would tend to agree with both of those guys. Oregon, it's going to be tough for them to replace. We'll see what their offensive defensive coordinator pairing looks like and how that forms out for Dan Lanning. I mean, look, if you were rolling it out there, you would say they probably, missed the playoff at like a 9-3, or maybe they slip back to 8-4 in a very tough conference. You look at it at a school like Alabama, they have been sliding since Nick Saban left. And that doesn't mean that they're bad. They're just not Alabama good. If you're looking for teams that possibly could jump up, and we're going to start churning numbers for this year here very, very soon, and already kind of looking at, kind of a broad brush of everything, look at a school like USC. At USC and Lincoln Riley have put a ton of money back into their program. They had the number one recruiting class this past year. They were really close last year. Michigan is another team, despite everything with the coaching, Sharon Moore and everything that's gone on up there. This is a really good football team. They got a ton of money. So immediately I'm going to look at Michigan and I'm going to look at USC. If you want to go back to the SEC, guys, I don't know, right out the gate, I'm going to say, watch Texas, of course, and then, watch, Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has put a ton of money in here. And, when you start looking at, returning quarterback play or who teams have brought in at quarterback, Gunnar Stockton returns at Georgia. They're not going anywhere. But after Georgia and Texas, and then say Oklahoma, who are the next few teams? Is Trinidad Chambliss, we think, will get eligible. How good will Ole Miss be next year? But Keelan Russell at Alabama, KJ Jackson, we're talking quarterbacks only at Arkansas, Byron Brown. Maybe look at Auburn, Rob. I mean, and maybe LSU and the SEC is making, and you look at the two coaches and the two quarterbacks. You look at Lane Kiffin and the fact that he's bringing in a quarterback, if he's healthy, from Arizona State that was really good 2 years ago, that got Arizona State to the college football playoff. And then you look at Byron Brown and you look at, his connection with Alex Golish and that talent coming in from South Florida. Yeah. If you're making me pick four teams right now, let's go 2 out of the Big Ten with USC and Michigan, and then we'll go maybe a return to the big picture in Auburn and LSU in the SEC.
And look, since 2013, you know how many 11-win seasons LSU has had?
Since 2013, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 4?
1.
Wow. I overshot that, Rob.
You know how many Auburn's had since then? 1. You know how many Florida's had since then? 1. Missouri's had 3. Now, Missouri ain't perceived as those other schools are, but what I see going on, you can flip the narrative in a heartbeat. You think about it. I was just on Shane Matthews, pod up with Shane Matthews right before this show this morning. Loved being on that show. I was talking to Shane. I said, remember when Coach Spurrier was asked before the 1990 season at a Gator Club event in Jacksonville, I think, Coach, who's your starting quarterback going to be this year? He goes, I don't know, but I know one thing. He's going to lead the SEC in passing. You got to have supreme confidence. Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, that guy exudes confidence. Art Briles' son-in-law, he draws up plays in his sleep. You don't have who knows if you have the money. I mean, there's a guy that gave Mississippi State 3 years ago $100 million, lives out in Houston. If you got a good college of engineering, petroleum engineering, chemical engineering school, that's where those guys are coming from, Jake. Talk about what's happening in Stark Vegas with NIL, what you're hearing. You do a great show Monday through Friday. Folks, you need to watch and listen to this show. ESPN 105.9 in Jackson, Mississippi. Get the app on your phone. Be smart. Don't waste time. Get the app.
Appreciate that, Rob. Yeah, first off, if you look at, and it's a totally different sport, Mississippi State has put a ton of money into baseball. I was reading an article this morning, projected by several publications, number 3 roster, number 3 team in the country in college baseball. We'll see how that pans out. They put a ton of money into baseball. Mississippi State has put a considerable amount of money in basketball. It's not paying dividends right now, but I think you can say that for a lot of schools. I mean, here's the rub. We got schools around the country that's going to put a lot of money into sports, and it's not going to pay dividends. Just because of the nature of, game days and coaching and outcomes and such. When it comes to football, I think Mississippi State has a nice collective. Again, we don't particularly know the amounts of money that are flowing through any collective. We've got, publications like On3 and formerly Rivals that can do, strategic analysis, and they can kind of figure out a ballpark for the big guys. But for a school like Mississippi State, we're not sure. We were talking the other day. I was actually talking to Chuck Oliver yesterday about this on his show. Is, Mississippi State has, at least on paper, gone out and identified a lot of former Power 4 offensive and defensive linemen. If you look down their transfer portal list, you'll see schools like Florida State, Alabama, Tennessee, USC. Now, does that mean success? Absolutely not. But one of the things that Mississippi State liked this past season was depth along the offensive and defensive front and the ability to, go 7, 8, 9, 10 deep on the offensive line. They were paper tigers in the depth department. So I think they're doing the right things in the collective. I think they're trying to identify the right people. You've got a quarterback that's coming back that's going to be, when healthy, one of the better ones, I think, in the league. Jeff Lebby is going to have skill position players. We know that. He has proven that. He's going to have wide receivers who can catch the ball, running backs who can run the ball. It just comes down to, this is a very pivotal year for him. And, this is probably a, roll the dice out on the table type of year, meaning, hey, look, you either got to get it done or you're not. But the question is what does that mean? Where do we set the benchmark for Jeff Lebby? It's a very tough schedule. Everybody goes to 9 games. They got a week 2 ball game coming up, in week 2 of this year at Minnesota in the Big Ten. So it's a challenge for him.
It is. And raising the money here, I'm just curious. We hear about private equity getting involved. When you get leveraged, you get your head in a vice grip, like putting your head in a record press. That squeeze comes in. They demand more of an ROI. They're going to get it or they're going to crush you. How about public finance? I can imagine. I got a lot of experience selling tax-free municipal bonds. How about Mississippi State or Arkansas or Florida go and issue a statewide, $50, $100 million bond issue where you can get tax-free. If you live in Florida, you get the triple deal. It's a homestead exemption state. Federal and state tax-free income. Let's say 5% on a bond. Let's say you buy $100,000 worth. That's 5% interest. $5,000 a year, federal and state tax-free. You get checks October and April 1st a year to fund NIL. And people say, well, man, I'll buy some bonds and get that interest. And that's, funding NIL. There's so many possibilities. I know it's more of an ownership thing, but it's either you figure it out or you don't. All right, Jake, Trinidad Chambliss, what are you hearing the latest on him? Tom Mars is his attorney. I'll go to court any day with Faris or Tom Mars, and I think I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win.
Yeah, I mean, the latest is they refiled another, piece of legislation or a piece of, whatever you want to call it, just a kind of appeal, an amendment to what they've already done in the state. I believe they did that on Monday. Yeah. everybody feels like this is going to go the way of Trinidad Chambliss, meaning, hey, he's going to get eligible. But up to this point, we don't know anything. It's kind of the wait and see game.
Question here from Kelly Leak. Was firing Coach Chad Bumpus done to save his job for a year? Because I thought he was a good wide receivers coach.
That's a great question. Look, I think Bump's a really good coach. He was an electric receiver at Mississippi State. He's done a lot of good things. I mean, word on the street is, and this is, again, word on the street, so let's just keep it right there, is there was a dissatisfaction in the recruiting elements coming out of that wide receiver room, ever how you want to frame that up, that there needed to be an upgrade. I don't think that, here's the deal. If you're trying to save your job, I don't think you fire the wide receivers coach. I mean, you really go in and you kind of clean house. To Kelly's question, I just think it was a situation where Jeff Levy felt there needed to be an upgrade at that position, and unfortunately, he had to make that call. When you get guys that, and this, come back to your school, that played for your school, sometimes it's hard to see them, exit stage left, so to speak. But from everything that we understand, it was nothing personal. It was more of an upgrade in that coaching position.
All right, ask you about Kentucky. Will Stein comes in. He signed, I think, 3 of the top 4 offensive linemen available in the portal. You're getting a lot of times where schools are caught with 12, 13 offensive linemen. You need close to 20. Is Kentucky, we talked about this, with $20.5 million rev sharing, the traditional football schools are going to give 85% of that to football, basketball, 85% to basketball. Kentucky, allegedly $22 million, Mark Pope's second team there at Kentucky. The question I'm asking you is, Stoops was there 13 years. He had a couple of 10-win seasons, and you're just beating your head against the wall because it's Kentucky. What's the upside? Bartu thinks it's really hurting Oregon to lose those 2 coordinators, and he felt this was the worst last 4 years offense and defensive outputs of an Oregon in memory. What's the upside at Kentucky, and are we going to start going back to what we were just 6 years ago?
That's a great question. Kentucky, I think the upside of Kentucky is how you get an opportunity to coach in a quality conference, one of the top 2 conferences in the country, as a head football coach. But there's a lot of work to do there. Kentucky this past year, they were 71st in offensive scoring efficiency. They were 36 in defensive scoring efficiency. They go out and get Kenny Minchie, who, obviously played at Notre Dame, or a cup of coffee there at Notre Dame. If you go back and kind of look at Minchie's profile as a player, I mean, he was a 4-star player coming out of the portal, and then, or out of the portal. And then if you go back and look at kind of his recruiting profile, I mean, 6'2", 210 pounds, big scrapping kid. Had offers from the likes of Notre Dame and Pittsburgh and Houston and some others. So they're trying to – it's got to start at the offensive side. We know that. They've got to have a quarterback. They've tried to identify that. That offense under Mark Stoops over the last few years has been putrid. They tried everything from, refurbishing Georgia quarterbacks to this quarterback to that quarterback, and it just never worked out for them. So, you could see that. I mean, look, it's an uphill climb for Kentucky, I think, to get back to where they were just several years or a few years ago. But it'll be an interesting story. I mean, look, there's a big fight at the bottom of the SEC to try to crawl out of the pile. I mean, you're looking at Arkansas, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Kentucky,
and
we'll
Auburn.
see, and Auburn. Throw Auburn in there.
Absolutely.
We'll see if Vanderbilt slides back with Diego Pavia gone. So there's 5, 6, 7 teams right there trying to claw their way out of that pile.
Yeah, and now let's flip over to look at Florida. John Sumrall embracing the Gator culture, keeping Jaden Ball. I was on the lowdown with Lauren Meadows on this channel last night. You got 5 minutes, and we're going to get it in. So Florida right now, what they've done in the portal, recruiting, what have you, you are the brand in the state of Florida.
You are. You're the brand in the state of Florida. But I think a lot of the country is looking at Florida and saying, hey, look, we got to see it to believe it. Now, John Sumrall, and what I mean by that, let me come back to that here in just a second. John Sumrall is a really good coach. I think that was a heck of a hire. You look at all the coaches that have missed at Florida, and, is that a byproduct of bad hires, from McElroy to, the
McElwain, yeah.
Or McElwain to Billy Napier to Dan Mullen. is it just bad hires, or is it something else going on there? Is it a culture thing? Is it an administration thing? We're going to find out with John Summerall. Florida should be, to your definition, they should be the standard in the state of Florida. They absolutely should. They should be one of the faces in the SEC. Unfortunately, they haven't been. And, now right now they're fighting, I think, obviously Miami in that state. It was South Florida. Alex Golesh takes off and leaves and goes to Auburn. So, but to your point, Florida should be one of the standards in the Southeastern Conference. There's no excuse for them not to be.
Well, and then flip up to Georgia. They don't bring a lot of guys in the portal. They don't lose a lot of people. 91% of their roster when they played Ole Miss in the All-State Sugar Bowl was kids they'd recruited from high school. Ole Miss flipping that on the other side, 34%. That's the way Kiffin. That's the way he rolls. We're hearing it may be 60 or 70% high school at LSU. It's going to be fun to watch. But Kirby Smart, what do you think? And Cordelli brought up a good point. At SEC spring meetings in Destin, if he's asked a question, what do you think about the 9th game on the conference schedule? Might he reply, I don't really have an opinion. No one asked us.
No, he very well could. That would probably be his answer, right? And it's going to be interesting. I mean, what is the new standard? And here's what I mean is, we're going to sit at 12 teams because the playoff committee with the Big Ten and the SEC did not come to agreement because of the number of, spots that each conference wanted to have. So we're sitting at 12 teams. The SEC with 9 games now. Half the league's going to take another loss. So what becomes the standard for the SEC? I mean, does 10-2 become 9-3? Does 9-3 become 8-4? How are fans going to respond to this? I mean, if you see, for instance, let's just say an Alabama team that goes 8-4 potentially this coming up year, well, they're going to want Kalen DeBoer removed without looking at the schedule and going, wait a minute, they just had to play one extra road game in the SEC that they didn't have to play last year or the year before. So you're right. The coaches weren't asked about it. They've got to play it, and it will be fascinating to see. And then how does the College Football Playoff Committee respond to it? Do they, how do they look at it, 5 or 6 SEC teams that finish 9-3 when you might have a couple 10-2s in other conferences that maybe their strength of schedule was way less?
Well, the strength of schedule, those teams were 5 and 6 in the CFP playoffs. I think we're getting into the numbers. Numbers don't lie. Jake, look, before you go, you've made so many great points. Catch him today, 3 to 6 p.m. Central, and put that app on your phone. This is so much fun. It never stops, these numbers. And I think the Shambler story is a big one. All you got to do is say, I reference Exhibit A from Opelousas, Louisiana, a 6'7", 7th-year player, TJ Finley. Come on.
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
It is believable because it's where we are, Jake. I mean,
it is. Unfortunately,
I can't believe. But what do you admire his persistence, or do you just say he's a product of the times?
A little bit of both. I mean, you have to wonder what his persistence is, right? I mean, you can't stay seated anywhere, right? So it's just like you're in a classroom and you're constantly moving chairs.
Yes.
So, but again, I mean, the system has got to be fixed. We could talk all day about this whole system, but there's got to be a fix. And it's baffling that the adults in the room haven't stood up and gotten this thing done.
There are no adults. That's the problem. Look, Jake, thank you so much. How do they follow you on Twitter, by the way?
Hey, on Twitter at Jake Wim, and of course I'm on Facebook at Jake Wimberly. You can it's an open profile. You can follow me there. So give me a follow. And of course, guys, appreciate it as always. We'll talk soon.
It's just as fun the regular season, the off season with guys like you. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
All right, see you.
All right, Dudley Dawson, Inside Arkansas. Dudley, we're going to have Vince Ferrara join us in just a minute from up in Knoxville over in the Smokies. First off, how much snow did you get up there in the northwest corner? I feel like I'm on Ice Station Zebra. I saw 2 polar bears out this morning when I took the dogs out. There's nowhere for the snow to go, Dudley.
Well, I'm told anywhere from 7 to 12 inches no matter where you're at in northwest Arkansas. It looks to me like we got the 12 inches. Yeah. Got a puppy, and he's hesitant to go out, but once he gets out, he loves it. So.
Yeah. We found a husky mix that showed up out here at the farm. Rex, he's pretty cool. He just lives outside. loves this stuff, but there is nowhere for it to go. I've got to drive Audrey. She can't get to Jonesboro. They're opening up the school again today. But I'm going to drive her over to Marion to the other clinic today because I got the 4-wheel drive F-150. You can get you one at LandersFordMemphis.com. Open every day of the week except Sunday. How about basketball right now, man? It's been tough. Football's so big. It casts such a big shadow. But the Razorbacks are sitting there at 16-5, 6-2 in the league. John Calipari has got them so fired up at the Discount Arena, Bud Walton Arena, 19,000 cramming in there. It's cold. The students are going wild. You lose Boogie Flans to Florida. Calipari just goes and finds other people. Do you get much of an opportunity to talk with John Calipari? He's just one of the most energetic, excitable guys I can imagine you could ever interview.
Well, he's a phenomenon, and he's become an elder statesman as it is
and he's a young man, by the way.
The college landscape, yeah. But tell you what, it was a big win for them last night because they've played really well at home, not so well on the road. Georgia and Auburn, they went down and really got off to bad starts. They did better last night. Beat an Oklahoma team that's good, but still the last in the conference, and you had to go get that one. They did that with some big plays by the freshmen at the end. They've got two, really good freshmen backcourt guys that, I made the statement last night that I think they're as good a first-year guards as Arkansas's had since Alvin Robinson and Darrell Walker were together. And both of those guys came after a year of junior college. These guys are true freshmen and kind of leading the way. Certainly it's a group effort, but they're excited around here now. They'll fight through snow to watch a basketball team. I don't know about football.
Yeah. I was supposed to be going to Hot Springs tomorrow for a gathering of a bunch of Arkansas folks. Chuck Dykes puts this thing together, former executive director of the Razorback Foundation, Jim McClellan and Mickey Miller. I was going to Little Rock tomorrow, meet them at 3, drive over to Hot Springs Country Club. I was so excited about this. They asked me to come, and now it's been canceled. They're going to reschedule it due to the snow and ice, whatever, because I'm telling you, you get out in the country, this highway right outside our driveway, it's just, if you don't have 4-wheel drive, you're going into the ditch. There's nowhere to go. But damn, the Razorback fans are fired up about basketball. And that is a school growing up in Memphis, man. The recruiting wars for guys like Todd Day, they're legendary. All right. Talk about the mood right now with Calipari, the way he's recruiting and dealing with the portal. Everybody knows about all the one and dones at Kentucky. What's he doing different at Arkansas? It just seems to me like he's not in the news as much for controversy. He's in the news because he's got some brilliant ideas, especially on insurance and NIL and keeping a roster intact. He's way ahead of the curve.
Yeah, and also if you've played professional basketball, you shouldn't come back and play college basketball, which I agree
where's that happening?
Yeah. Everybody's doing what they think they need to do, I guess. So, but we'll see how that plays itself out. But he's doing a really good job in building a basketball team in a different kind of way. Now, yes, he's going out and still getting the one and dones and the magical guards and all that, but you've got a true salary cap now. I think his is bigger than a lot of other folks that he's able to use, and he's rounded out this with a very good team. The transfer portal he's used really well. These two big guys are from the transfer portal, and he's adapting. Even though I'm sure that there are people in Kentucky who say he's it's past him. But hey, guess what? Guess what game's here Saturday? Arkansas and Kentucky. It should be fun. 5:30 p.m. It'll be packed.
Well, remember this first year when they went up to Lexington and put a beating on Kentucky in Rupp Arena. I'm a huge Calipari fan because when I worked at Regents Morgan Keegan on Ridgeway Loop Boulevard in East Memphis, we were on the 6th floor. Sexton and Kyle Rote Jr. were on the 5th floor, Athletic Resources Management. Used to see Coach Calipari out there a lot. Talk to him on the elevator, in the hall, whatever. You talk about a charismatic guy. Him and Houston Nutt both could get you excited going to your own hanging. I mean, there's something about them, their personalities. I absolutely, I just, Houston Nutt is one of my favorite people. And when he told us 3 years ago on this show, I'm going to go to my first tailgate. I'd never been to a tailgate. It kind of hit me. He goes, I said, yeah, he played college football, went straight as a GA. He'd never been to one. He is loving life. Let's talk about
Ryan. He's up here in Rogers now. I actually talked to him Friday and did a story on the transition that Ryan Silverfield is facing. Houston certainly did that. He came in after Arkansas was coming off 4-17, 7 years. But it's interesting. None of the coaches since before Bobby Petrino have reached out to him, and I think he'd like to be an ambassador. He realizes that everything's everybody'd have to be on the same page. But it's kind of strange. They play his victory speech, with the or his motivational speech. But it's kind of would be nice if he kind of gets the Nolan Richardson treatment as welcome back into the fold, and we might see that happen.
First off, I'll just give you my perspective on that. Just being in Memphis, the politics of the old money in Little Rock, they call it the new money in the Northwest corner. Get over yourself. That is so spiteful, so tawdry and petty. That man loves Arkansas like Ralph and Dixie Carlson, my friends from Lehigh, great farm family over here. That's what I grew up with thinking Arkansas people were. If you don't bring Houston Nutt back into the fold, that's like telling Steve Spurrier or Urban Meyer they're not welcome on campus in Gainesville. The 10 years he had there, it was petty stuff. It's ridiculous what happened. I don't know if it was the Mitch Mustaine and all that stuff and Gus and all that, but he's fired after an 8-5 season. What would Arkansas give to go 8-5 right now and beat the number one team LSU in overtime in Baton Rouge? Here we got Omar Sharif. Holy cow, man. Lawrence of Arabia. Da, 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 da. How are you doing, man? Have you hit the portal?
No, just making a statement as to the ridiculousness of all this cold weather that we continue to have.
Hey, you're snow in your hair. Hey. Oh.
Hey, look, by the way, I wanted to tell you, I just got this Wesley Duncan, great friend of mine down in Fort Lauderdale watching, where it's the other day, I was like, it was 7 degrees up here. And he goes, oh, by the way, Rob, it's 86. The feel-like temperature will be 92 today. I replied to him with a gesture, but he said, Keyshawn Hall, 6 schools in 6 years. I mean, hey, TJ Finley, 7 on 7. Vince, we're talking SEC basketball right now and whatever else, but we're going to quickly get your thoughts on what's going on. Tennessee at 3-3. What's your take? Talk about, Bucky Ball. By the way, Bucky McMillan, I think, is a professional poker player from Mountain Brook. Grew up poker face. Man, he's having fun at Texas A&M. He probably still doesn't understand what all those cheers mean. Nobody does. But Vince, Tennessee at 3-3, 13-6 in the SEC, top to bottom. First off, Tennessee, and then your thoughts on the whole league this year.
Well, Tennessee is coming off of their most impressive game in quite a while in winning at Alabama with Charles Bediako, which, of course, it's its own show and its own story. And that has been, subject number one around here for sure. And him getting that temporary restraining order and playing and being a factor in that game. He changed the way Alabama played. They were missing 2 guards in the game, and Bediako gave him an inside presence offensively and defensively, and they took advantage of it. Alabama had a bunch of points in the paint early on, but Tennessee adjusted. They didn't panic. They handled the adversity, and they came out in the second half. They were outstanding, and they played with a different level of urgency defensively and tenacity that we have not seen from this team for a while. The Rick Barnes has been begging for. Just been really inconsistent for a good part of the year, ever since that Houston win in a neutral site in Vegas. So it was it was a very impressive win to beat a ranked team on the road. Rick Barnes has had a lot of success against Nate Oates. He gives him a lot of trouble. It's 5 straight wins against Bama. And so they took Alabama out. Alabama only had 6 made threes, a lot fewer than what they typically make. It was about 13. And Tennessee finished and making a little bit more of their free throws, didn't turn the ball over as frequently. Nate Ament was phenomenal. I mean, he looked like a pro, played like a pro with career high 29, playing through contact despite being slender as a 5-star. He's had 4 straight, good offensive games overall, but this is his most complete and his most dominant performance. If they get that with Jacoby Gillespie and the role players kind of holding their own, especially those post players, now you're cooking. Now you're doing the things that people anticipated this Rick Barnes team to be able to do. But look, they're at Georgia tonight. Georgia coming off of a loss. So Danny White's brother, Mike, leading that Georgia team. They're much improved this year. We'll see if Tennessee can get another road win. That was their first road win, guys, of the year. True road win. They were the only team in the top 59 of the net that didn't have one. So they had to get that off their resume. Just their third quad 1 win. So very important. But to me, they got to put some of these games together in a row before it changes the narrative of this team being a little up and down this year.
Yeah. All right. I love it when y'all are on here because this is about engaging the guests and letting y'all roll. Dudley, what are some stories that you want to talk about that are big going on in Arkansas, the SEC, or college sports nationally that we don't know about? I want to hear.
Well, if they don't know about them, I don't know that we're not doing our job. But I'm trying to think.
I didn't mean to insult you.
Trying to think of some of the lesser.
It's cold.
Things, and I'm not saying lesser sports. Arkansas's women's basketball team obviously had a switch in leadership. Mike Neighbors, who I think is doing a really good job on the SEC network in breaking down games and all that. I do think that Coach Kelsey Music has come in and tried to revitalize it, but and was 11-3 during the early season. But the SEC, as we all know, is tough, and they've not won a game. And you've got LSU coming in tomorrow. As long as the weather permits and all that. So, it's a rebuilding thing for them. I think that, they get kind of overlooked right now because of all the excitement around the men's team. But I do think she's a really good coach. She's proven that elsewhere. And it's just going to take, some interesting things to get going. I know they are recruiting a 6'8" girl who's a junior out of New York. You get that, and you've got something you might get going. So, that's one of the things I would say that maybe is being a little underreported, and that happens when you're not winning, even though I think they've got the right person and going to move forward.
Vince, same thing up in Knoxville. What stories out there that you're talking about we need to know about?
Well, the portal always, and Tennessee football always, the portal, they're up to 21. They added 3 more guys over the weekend. Now, I think those are depth pieces, including a wide receiver, which they did not have in this portal group, a second tight end as well, and then another cornerback. They needed another one to join the group. That's 8 defensive backs out of the 21 incoming players via the portal that Tennessee has had. Now, I've said this before. I'm not sure if I said it on with you guys last week, but I said it on our show on Sports Talk here in Knoxville. I think when you look at the position players for Tennessee football, out of the portal, I think you're looking at 7 new starters from portal players with Jim Knowles in this Tennessee defense. That's a lot of turnover. And of the other 4 that would be returning players, only 2 of them were starters last year, if it plays out the way it looks like on paper. And one of them is Arion Carter, who you could argue was their best get in the portal, who was going to the NFL, withdrew his name for the NFL draft, temporarily went in the portal, and then came back to Tennessee. But Tennessee wanted him, and it worked. And now they have a deep linebacking room. So if you count him as a portal add, it was a subtraction and an add, he's very important. And so he would be one. The other would be true freshman cornerback Ty Redmond, who played really well, got a lot of all SEC freshman honors. So on the other 2 are guys that are back that are just kind of the next man up, and they need to be better. So overhaul defense, and then what does it look like from a strength and conditioning standpoint also with Derek Owings coming in from Indiana. So that has continued to be a big topic of conversation. And then, with Lady Vols basketball, Dudley mentioned Arkansas basketball. Lady Vols are the last team in the league without a loss. Now, they had their old game at Ole Miss that was canceled due to the weather this week. Not sure if they're going to be able to fit that in somewhere. It could be a really short week for someone to squeeze in an extra game the rest of the way. But Kim Caldwell's doing a nice job. Now, they're winning in some different ways with defense and some toughness in close games. But the tougher part of their schedule is still to come with the elite of the league. So we'll see how that goes. But that's been good. And then Tennessee baseball is just a couple of weeks away. We're already having Josh Elander on each week and breaking down this team. So excited to call some Tennessee baseball games again this year. And that starts, Friday, February 13th, a lot of home games and then a neutral site game as well. So, a lot of these sports, baseball, softball, will be very good at Tennessee again this year. And then, obviously basketball and the Vols and Lady Vols, will be in the tournament, and then it's just a matter of how they do. So this is we're getting to that overlap time, guys, where the football is not going anywhere. It's always there. But then you have those two overlap of the winter sports and the spring sports going on at the same time here right around the corner.
Yeah, snow's cool. Snow is cool, but I needed to get off the baseball field.
Yeah.
They have an indoor facility they're able to work out in, but when they go in there, the public and the media doesn't get to come. And, season starts February 13th. So let's have a little sun, please.
Yeah.
And, so I can go watch a little baseball. We all know how much I love baseball.
Yeah. Well, you're wearing your St. Louis Cardinals attire today, and
hey, and they are not good, but they are my team.
Yeah. Hey, you are everything, and you're loyal to Celtics, Cowboys, Cardinals. Vince, give me your trifecta. NFL team that's your Tampa Bay Bucks?
Bucks, yeah. Rays, and what's the other? I mean, I graduated from USF, so
NBA.
Those NBA. Not really. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks. I lived in Dallas a little bit, and never really fully attached to the Magic when I lived in Florida. They're still so new. But yeah, Tampa Bay Lightning and hockey also.
Yeah,
I got Vegas Golden Knights, which makes no sense, but none of my teams make sense. And I have to explain to everybody that when in the '60s we got 3 channels.
Yes.
And on Sundays and Saturdays we got Cardinals, Cowboys, and Celtics, and that's all they were televising at the time. And so that's how I became the fans of those, and of course KMOX. So
yeah, KMOX 1120 St. Louis. Jack Buck, Mike Shannon. Ice cold Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis Cardinal baseball. I'm with you. And also, look, in Memphis, growing up, you got the Cowboys and you got the Saints. Because when Archie Manning signed with the Saints, that made us – we had 2. But I will say nothing made you more aware of the players. If you remember, anybody watching, any of y'all, if you remember the old DX gas stations, they had those books that you would buy, and you got the trading stamps that had the entire roster of every NFL football team. And every time you got gas, you got stamps. And you would fill out your book, and sometimes you'd fill out the entire team. Still to this day, 2 of the hardest gets were Jan Stenerud, field goal kicker for the Chiefs, and Garo Yepremian, the kicker for the Miami Dolphins. I would get my dad, he'd fill up, and he'd be 1/16 or 1/8 of a time. Hey, you got to get gas. Come on. And I'd get stamps. I was OCD on those damn things. I'm OCD anyway, but it made it fun. All right, guys, let's start looking outside right now. Starting with you, Dud. The SEC in football, 3 years in a row now. This is not an accident. I think it's more symptomatic of the big problem. SEC now going to 9 games. Again, spring meetings are going to be fun in Destin. When someone asked, Lane Kiffin, they asked Kirby Smart, they asked, you pick the coach, Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. What do you think about 9 games? I don't know. No one asked us. Does this help the league, or does this make it where 8-4, 9-3, as Jake referenced, could be considered a good team? Because historically, that's not at a place like Alabama.
Well, I mean, the Big Ten has overtaken the SEC in terms of obviously winning the national championships and having the best group of teams at the top. We can go, back and forth on the depth and all that, but I think that's you went 3 in a row. Just as when we were saying the SEC was the best when they were doing that, then I think you have to acquiesce and give the Big Ten its flowers, as the kids say these days. But I do think that the 9-game thing, sit here and toss out an opinion. I think we're just going to have to see how it works. I mean, you got 9 games, you got 16 teams. I love math, but sometimes that don't work for me. And I'm just ready to sit back, watch it be played, and then toss out an informed opinion, which is no fun for a lot of folks, but something I do a lot. I'm sometimes I'm not the smartest man in the room, even if I'm the only man in the room. And so, but I like to get research, and it's just I go into this thinking you did probably what you needed to do, because the Big Ten and some others were griping at you. You did it. Now everything's fair. So I don't want to hear it anymore. Shut up. Let's play.
Vince?
Yeah, a couple things on what Dudley was talking about, and it connects to something that we found out about recently in terms of the news, and that is that the college football playoff is remaining at 12 games.
Yeah. When
the SEC went to 9 games, it was projecting that the college football playoff would expand to 16 teams, because I think at the time, 2 things needed to happen. One, they needed to know that they were going to take into consideration, a greater consideration, strength of schedule, because of how tough the SEC was with 8 games. And the thing is now, if we're going to beat each other up, we need more at-large spots in the college football playoff to make sure. And I think everyone was in line with 16 teams. They were just trying to figure out the format and the logistics of it. And then the Big Ten decides, wait a minute, we have a leverage opportunity here, and we want a 24-team playoff. We'll agree to a 16-team playoff, SEC, if you agree that we need to go to 24. And so the fact that we haven't expanded the playoff, if you want to expand the playoff, we don't have one, that is squarely on the shoulders of the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
Period. It is on them. And I don't blame the SEC for budging on that. But because of that, because they couldn't agree, because the Big Ten no longer was in line with everybody else that had agreed to a 16-team playoff, now you have 12, and you have a 9-game schedule. So it was tough before, and it's going to be even tougher. Oh, by the way, now they've guaranteed every conference, the Power 4 conference, a spot, and they've guaranteed Notre Dame a spot if they're in the top 12. That's what I have the biggest problem with, is Notre Dame being guaranteed in the top 12. Because if you think about it, there's always a couple of conferences, the ACC and the Big 12, especially, that aren't ranked in the top 12. They're farther down the rankings. So what happens? The cut line for at-larges moves up to like the top 10. But then here's Notre Dame can get in at 12. So there could be teams ranked higher than Notre Dame that won't get in because they're guaranteed a spot. Oh, by the way, that could very well be the Southeastern Conference that gets 1 or 2 teams left out because Notre Dame gets a guaranteed top 12 spot. I think it should at least be top 10. And again, top 12, if it's a 16-team playoff, okay, that means they were really, really good. They would have gotten in anyway. They don't get left out. But top 12, no, they might get in place of a Southeastern Conference team. So I think that's a very difficult aspect of this. And, the SEC, the scoreboard is there for the Big Ten. There's no doubt about it at the top. But the SEC, people would complain about them being top heavy too, right? When it was just Alabama and then it was just Georgia. So they've had that been in that spot also.
That's a great point. The tweak of the rules is what, makes you want to question things. Adding Notre Dame, Notre Dame doesn't want to be in a conference. They kind of play in a conference there, although they won't, show the affiliation or whatever when it comes to football. Mm-hmm. I think that, if things were left the way they were, then I think everybody's happy with 12. But as you said, people keep trying to throw 16 out there, which, it's fine if you're going to do the Notre Dame inclusion thing that you pointed out. 24, man, that's just a lot of teams, and that's a lot of people who don't deserve to be playing for a national championship. You can water that sucker down just like they're trying to take the NCAA tournament from 68 to 96. Get out of here with that.
Yeah, I'll say this. My good friend Yule Gibbons, ever eat a pine cone, pine tree? Many parts are edible. Y'all remember Yule Gibbons? The guy that would eat everything. He was the naturalist guy. Yule Gibbons, they did the Saturday night skit on him. Ever eat a park bench? Many parts are edible. Well, Yule Gibbons told me, and why does it always have to be and Notre Dame? They're a big brand. We understand that. But we talk about the 9-game schedule being the ruination of the SEC potentially. Remember what was said back in 1992 by going to 12 teams in the SEC and a conference championship, East and West divisions. That first year, Alabama pulled it out and ended up going 13-0 and curb stomped Miami for the national championship, 34-13 down in the Sugar Bowl. I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, but it's going to be significant, guys. What we love about college football is the standard of excellence. To go 11-0 in the day or 12-0. What Nick Saban did in 16 straight years, winning 10 games or more, was just incredible. But I'll say Pete Cordelli said on the show Monday, he predicts Alabama not in the playoffs next year. Dave Bartu predicts Oregon not in the playoffs. You can be on top of the world and the next year be from the penthouse to the outhouse, I think, more quickly than I've ever seen in college football. I'll start with you, Vince. Agree or disagree?
No, I agree, and it's a tougher situation now for the SEC with the fewer spots and the tougher SEC schedule. I think it's great for the fans. It's great for the media. You get better games. Great for television because of the inventory, but it may not lead to the results that they're looking for. I don't know that you can look at any of these SEC teams and say there's a national champion there. Maybe Georgia because they're always super talented, but they got some proving to do. Now, half of the top 50 players in the portal go into the SEC, so those could work out, especially at quarterback. And real quick, Dudley, you were saying the numbers don't always work out with 16 teams and 9-game schedule. How about the ACC? They're going to 9 games as well, and they have 17 teams, so the numbers definitely don't work out. 5 teams, 12 of them will play 9 games, 5 of them will play 8 this year. So the imbalance is even worse there in their league, and they don't even have anything close to the depth that the SEC does.
I'm very proud that I grew up on a farm in Balch, Arkansas, outside of Newport.
Near Grubbs.
I loved my big wheels on my tractor. I loved the big wheels on my truck. I love the big wheels on my economy van right now. You don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. There's nothing wrong with the wheel.
Yeah. Well, Notre Dame kind of being in the ACC, there are 2 things in life that you're not kind of. You're not kind of pregnant, and you're not kind of dead. Okay, you've got to be in a conference. That's the thing. If everybody else is doing it, what did Gunnery Sergeant Hartman say in Full Metal Jacket? You want to be different, pal. What side is this, pal? Left, sir. What side is that? You expect me to believe you're that dumb pile? You don't know your left from your right? Get in a conference. Jeff Boone, my good friend, who's a Georgia Bulldog fan, he wakes up every morning and doesn't say hello. He barks. He loves Georgia so much. But he's right. It drives him crazy. But you can't deny the brand and the eyeballs that Notre Dame brings when they're on TV. But then again, look what Indiana just did. They went from, you talk about a unicorn. They've got 715 losses, which is the most of any team in college football history at the start of this past season. And they went 16-0, but they still got 715 losses. 32.3 million people watched them beat Miami in what I thought was a great national championship game. We got just a few minutes left. Guys, isn't that what it's really all about for the people that run the TV world, which run college athletics, is eyeballs?
Yeah, but what's the incentive for Notre Dame to join a conference? They were finally left out of the playoff, and they didn't bend over backwards to get them in.
I know.
And now you take away by rewarding them and changing the rule for their entry. You're taking away any incentive for them to get in a conference to help out their case to get in the future, especially when they took their ball and they went home and they're angry about it. Now you've just allowed them to be Notre Dame and have a lot of leverage that a lot of people don't. And you've de-incentivized them getting into a conference to help them by changing your rules. It just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
I think Arkansas is going to petition to make sure that there's always a team that starts with ARKA in the playoff. Now, I mean, that's just as good as anything else.
Automatic qualifier.
Yes. Arkansas State. Them in Arkansas State.
That's right. Well, I tell you right now, 16 would be cool because you'd have 8 on-campus home games, no first-round buys. And, look, I love having college football January 19th, but for the coaches, the players, let's get it over with the first few days of January. Let's figure something out. Maybe we start a little bit earlier. Hey, when we were growing up, I think we didn't start school till late August after Labor Day. Now you got them starting August 5th, 6th, 7th. That's ridiculous. Where'd your summer go? I mean, something's got to work. Look, Vince, you do a great show every day of the week, Monday through Friday, early in the mornings on the Sports Animal in Knoxville. Dudley, Dawson, you're writing, putting out great stuff on Twitter and Inside Arkansas. Folks, this is what True Grit journalism is all about. These guys show up every day with a mantra that I love. What can I do to help my readers, my viewers, my listeners learn more about college sports? And we'll be talking more.
Make money to help pay for a wedding.
That's right. Mama Ferrara is open Monday through Friday, 6 8. God almighty. Vince, ask your mom if she's ever, by the way, made pastelaya. That's a Cajun dish that Bud Ritchie, my friend, does, where you put chicken and all kinds of wild game. We do duck. We do everything in there. Pastelaya. That's kind of a Cajun take on Italian food. By the way, when you take Cajun and Italian food and mix it together, you have the great supper. I'm just telling you, it is incredible.
It's dynamite. And by the way, my mom is going to Italy for about 6 weeks in the spring. So yeah, it's you talk about me going home to get authentic cooking. Then you get home cooking in Italy, a different level, and what an experience. So happy for her.
Well, we need some pictures to put on here to post on the show. So, because, Dudley and I lost our place in Grubbs, Arkansas. Blue Jays, the peanut butter cream pie with 6 inches of meringue on top. It's certainly fat-free, of course, but it's delicious.
That's a
but
pup
guys,
right there.
Yeah, it's a pup cup. Yeah. But anyway, thank y'all both so much for being on here and sharing your time. It means more than you know. And let me say something about our sponsors. Look over my shoulder here. LandersFordMemphis.com open every day of the week except Sunday. A shout out to Sag's Big and Tall Shop in West Memphis and Marion. The day means more than the dollar, okay? Brad Bellamy, the general manager, just ask him, say, I need help. I've got to get a vehicle. They'll work with you and get you in the right price and get you off the lot. Service department's open every day of the week, and they will pick you up, provide a round-trip transportation. And a new location at Mount Moriah and I-240. That's the old Dobbs location. Man, they're just the best people to work with. Their names all over the Mid-South, and you can order from them anywhere. LandersFordMemphis.com. And right down the street from Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the square in Collierville. Boots, Barber, Filson, you name it. Lights out. Sleep gummies. 25% off. Use code Friday2025 at checkout to get 25% off. Pains, aches, they go away. Try the energy gummies, the chill gummies, also the pain gels and topicals. They got you covered. And look, get your roof looked at, mytownroofing.com, Rumble Boxing Gym, Union and McLean in Midtown Memphis. For executive producer Brendan Martin, let me say, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the greatest country in the history of the world. Act like it, okay? We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.